A nurse takes a job caring for a sick elderly lady. Her job leaves her in a situation that resembles her emotional past, which she can't seem to shake. She soon finds out that the job she took does not just resemble it, it is connected to it. A girl stands and carves a crucifix into a tree. Another girl comes to her, and they stand near a house. She tells the younger one to not come inside. They hear screaming, and the girl enters the house, where she sees a portrait of a lady. That same lady appears and takes a picture of the girl. After telling her to sit, she demands payment and a blood offering. The girl gives both. The lady informs her that the devil will take possession of whoever's blood is offered, and they will be locked in hell forever. The lady informs her that the devil never takes possession himself. He always sends one of his minions, and he will only do so when he wants to, unless the lady says she gets double payment. The girl tells her she will have it. She gets told that the person she has to go to may have powers and gives her a knife. Her instructions are to carve a crucifix into her throat. Then, the lady drinks the blood the girl gave to her and starts chanting ritualistically. When she's done, the candle goes out. They wait in anticipation for the devil to relight it. The lady's face begins morphing. She asks where the girl got the blood. She says her daughter took it from her while she slept, and follows that by slamming the lady's head on the table. The girl introduces herself as Mary and says she's there for her husband. She uses the knife to carve into the lady. That is when the little girl, Sadie, enters the house. The lady rushes to her, with fingers coming out of her mouth. Sadie bites one, and the two girls run away. Outside, she shows Mary the finger she bit off. 3 months later, Ellie and her friend, Beth, talk for a short while. Ellie walks into the house and looks at a picture of a lady with a young girl. Disturbed, Ellie puts it face down. As she washes the dishes, she hears a song coming from somewhere. Distracted, she drops a dish. Soon enough, she locates the record and stops it. The picture she placed face down is now mysteriously upright again. She gets a call, and a lady tells her that all foreign aid to Haiti got cut off. This upsets Ellie, who has been working there for a while. Beth tells her about a blood drive that she could help with instead. Afterwards, a lady comes behind Ellie and tells her she's sorry for her loss. She came to give Ellie her key and says she found her mother, who passed away. She heard a record that should have been skipping, but it wasn't. She is Mrs. Dudley, and she starts getting emotional while talking to Ellie. She tells Ellie off for abandoning her mother, to which the girl replies that Dudley can't lecture her about her choices. This prompts Dudley to slap Ellie. As the girl goes back inside to help Beth with the packing, Dudley says she keeps seeing her mother's face and cannot sleep at night. After that, the two girls drink wine. Ellie feels guilty that she left her mother, but Beth tries to assure her that she did nothing wrong. Before she leaves, she adds that Ellie is a good person. Once she's alone, Ellie hesitatingly walks into a room. She looks through a box and takes out a photo book. In there, she notices vile scribbles on the pictures. Then, the phone rings, and Ellie answers it. A lady introduces herself as Alma Whitelorn. Ellie has been recruited for a nursing job after her mother recommended her to Alma. Ellie will be taking care of someone named Mrs. Ambrose, and Alma tells her about the job. The next day, Ellie is at the blood drive with Beth, who asks her if she will take the job. Ellie doesn't know, but she could use the money. Beth advises her to take it. After talking for a while, Ellie wonders why her mom recommended her. At night, she has a nightmare of her mother telling her to go back to sleep. She wakes up from it and goes to the washroom. We see someone move behind her while she washes her face. To her horror, someone calls out her name. There is no one else in the house, so Ellie believes it to be her late mom. The voice asks her where she was, and Ellie states she was volunteering. She walks into another room, and a door closes to reveal her mother hanging from it. She opens her eyes and tells Ellie to look at her. The deceased lady speaks ill of Dudley and screams, ending the spectacle. In the morning, Beth is there with Ellie, who tells her what happened. She says it felt real. Beth advises her to see someone about it, like a psychiatrist. Suddenly, the record turns on again, and Ellie goes to stop it. She says it was playing when Dudley found her mom. Afterward, she tells Beth that she wants to take the job. We see them ride for a while until they arrive at the area where the tree with the crucifix stands. When the girls exit the car, Ellie says it's weirdly familiar. They see a lady standing creepily outside the house and come to her. It is Alma, who tells Ellie she's late. She takes them into the house and tells them about the place briefly. Next, she tells Ellie a few details about Mrs. Ambrose before taking her to see the lady. She lies there, unconscious, and Alma tells Ellie not to leave until the ambulance arrives on Monday. When they leave the room, Ambrose's eyes open to reveal pitch-black eyeballs. Beth and Ellie talk about Alma outside. Beth thinks she is crazy, and heard by them, Alma appears and surprises the girls. She gives Ellie half of her money up front. As Alma leaves, Ellie asks her how her mother knew Ambrose. Alma believes they could have been acquaintances. When she leaves, Beth expresses her apprehension about Ellie taking the job. She tells her how it resembles the situation with Ellie and her mom, but Ellie takes it. Reluctantly, Beth leaves as Ellie enters the house. She comes to Ambrose and introduces herself to the lady. She tells her she will be there whenever Ambrose needs her. She lowers the covers and is slightly taken aback by the blood spots on her legs. At that point, Ambrose opens her eyes and Ellie greets her. The lady opens her mouth and a gooey substance begins spewing out of it. As Ellie tries to deal with it, she is bombarded by her mom's voice again. Later, she walks outside to close a loose door. We see a little girl in the distance. Then, she looks at the crucifix on the tree. She is trying to familiarize herself with the new area. At night, Ellie hears her name being called once more. She lights a fire at the fireplace and looks at a music record. She plays and listens to it while sitting. Eventually, she gets up and walks away. She leaves her phone on the chair. She checks on Ambrose and sits with her. Quickly after, she starts to sleep. At that moment, Ambrose opens her eyes, which are black again. Her mouth opens, and a black hand emerges out of it, reaching for Ellie. It tries to open Ellie's mouth, but it retreats at the sound of a phone ringing. Ellie gets up to answer it. Beth has been calling her cell phone, but couldn't reach her. She adds that she's off on Sunday and plans to visit. As Ellie agrees to the plan, she hears her name being called. This brings her to end the call with Beth. After hanging up, she hears a thud on the window. It happens again, and Ellie sees something being thrown. She steps outside. At the doorstep, she finds an apple with a note on it. Startled, Ellie drops it when she sees that it is infested with maggots. The scene shifts to a police officer standing in the house. Scared about the apple and the voices, Ellie has called them to check the place out. He says someone is trying to scare her. He will ask around and get more information. This place, he says, has a history of people believing superstitious things. He asks about Ambrose since he thought she passed away. Ellie tells him she is alive, and the man leaves, thinking he was mistaken. At night, she wakes up to drink some water. Noticing that there is an insect inside the cup, she quickly drops it. During the daytime, we see her running in the woods. There, she finds a little girl and asks for her name. After Ellie asks her if she lives around here, the girl runs away. On another night, Ellie hears whispers and gets up. Ambrose's mouth is open, and a few flies are coming out of it. Ellie asks if it's Dorothy, Ambrose's daughter, who is whispering. She enters the room, but finds no one. She asks Ambrose if she has been speaking to her. At another time, Ellie is outside, watching with horror as her mother hangs from a tree and throws apples at her. The situation escalates, and her deceased mother begins hurling insults at her. To Ellie's relief, it was just another nightmare. But when she uncovers herself in bed, she finds bruises on her. Beth is in an office, receiving a record of Alma. The man who gives it to Beth is her father. To Beth's bewilderment, he tells her that no one has heard of Alma. Back at the house, Ellie sweeps the porch. Mary comes to her with Sadie. Mary says that her daughter threw the apple, but did not mean any harm by it. She also tells Ellie she should not be there. Ambrose is lifeless. Beth enters a library and asks a worker for a microfiche. Meanwhile, Mary says that Ambrose is a demon in a decaying shell. Ellie is there to be the next body for it to escape into. This information terrifies Ellie. Thinking that Mary is just there to scare Ellie, she tells the girl to leave and threatens to call the police. She also wonders why Sadie doesn't speak. When the little girl shows her tongueless mouth, Ellie wishes she didn't ask. Beth uses the microfiche, and Ellie continues talking to Mary. She tells Ellie that her husband was with Dorothy once. When he left her, she was still infatuated with him. So, her mother Ambrose put a hex on the man and his unborn children. That is how Sadie became accursed. Mary's other daughter, Lily, lost her life 1 week after being born. The sorrow was so deep that it made the husband end his life. Before leaving, Mary tells her she will burn down that cabin, even if it's the last thing she'll ever do. Later, Beth talks to her friend, who is a nurse. She asks if Ambrose will be coming to the hospital on Monday. The nurse checks for her and finds that no one is coming for the next 30 days. We see Ellie resting in a chair. Someone stands behind her and calls her name. She awakens with a start. Desperate to find out what has been happening, she follows in the direction of the figure. She hears whispers in the hallway. After that, she enters Ambrose's room and asks her if she can hear her. The lady starts opening her black eyes, but quickly closes them to not get caught. Ellie drops an egg in the kitchen. While she tries to clean it up, she discovers there is something underneath the carpet. So, she unravels it. She's puzzled to see many symbols written on the floor. There is also a floor door present, which she opens. At that moment, Beth drives her car and attempts to reach Ellie on the phone. Ellie descends into the underground room and searches through it. She finds a book with an occult symbol on it. Inside, she sees Mary's picture, which Ambrose took. Ellie flips through the pages and sees more pictures. Eventually, she comes across pictures of her younger self with her mom. On the back of one of them is a torn picture of her father. Ellie also finds a blood sample with her name on it. She hears a loud sound from upstairs and drops the sample, which shatters. Horrified, she goes to the phone, but it's no use. All she hears is static. Feeling a presence in a house, she asks if Alma is there. When she calms down, she checks on Ambrose. To her dismay, Ellie sees that her neck has a small crucifix symbol carved into it. She tries to leave, but the door has been locked. She hears her mother call her name again. Her mother appears and begins yelling at Ellie. She tells Ellie that the reason she has passed is because her daughter neglected her. She needed Ellie to be there for her, but she left her. Amidst this commotion, Ambrose opens her mouth, and a hand starts emerging from it. Ellie screams in horror. Beth finally arrives at the house. She enters it with a bottle of wine and searches for her friend. In the bathroom, she starts talking about the information she found. She believes Ellie is taking a shower, but Alma opens the curtain and stabs Beth. The girl retaliates by smashing the wine bottle against her head. Desperate to get away, Beth starts crawling across the floor, but Alma comes after her. She kicks the injured girl downstairs and follows her down the steps, where she attempts to finish her with the knife. But Beth resists. Meanwhile, Ellie sits in a defensive position as she fights with her memories. A record starts playing. Frustrated, she takes it and drops it on the floor. At that moment, Officer Green comes back to her. He got some news that Mary will burn this house down soon. He wants to escort her into town and asks about Ambrose. This time, Ellie doesn't know what to say. She knows that Ambrose is not human, but has no clue how to explain everything. So, he goes to her room to check. While he searches, Ellie urges him to get out. The officer notices Ambrose on the ceiling, and she falls on him. Worried, Ellie then enters the room and sees what's going on. She rushes out and screams for help. The other officer asks where her partner is, and Ellie tells her Ambrose ended him. Shortly after, a car slams into her. Ellie sees that it's Beth in the car. She takes her friend out and drags her away. Leaving her there, she tries to collect herself. However, she stands and approaches Ellie from behind. She removes her mask and reveals that it's Alma. The wicked lady strikes Ellie down. The next scene has an injured Ellie sitting down while imagining her mother. Alma takes her place to tell her what happened long ago. Her mom wanted to put a curse on her father and paid using Ellie's blood. After insulting Alma, the lady strikes her again to dim her consciousness. When she awakens, Ellie finds herself lying next to Ambrose on those strange symbols. She tries talking sense into Alma. Ellie confesses that she ran away from her mother because she was scared to turn into her. All this time, Ellie calls her Dorothy, which upsets Alma. She tells her what her name is and kicks the bound girl. What follows is her picking up the mask she wore and placing it into Ellie's mouth. She spits it out from disgust, but she's also extremely upset because it is made out of her dearest friend, Beth. Alma looks at the book of spells and starts reading out of the page. Upon hearing the words, Ambrose opens her black eyes. When Alma is done reciting, the hand starts coming out again. A black demon emerges from the lady and soon gets on Ellie. They are interrupted when Mary rushes into the house and puts her hands on Alma. The lady tries resisting, but Mary proves to be stronger and brings her down. She hurries to the book and begins reciting another spell. Agitated, the demon runs to Mary and knocks the book down. Then, Ellie unties herself and takes the knife. She stands behind the demon and carves a crucifix into its back. Now injured, the demon grows weaker. Sadie appears and places something into the demon's head, which starts a fire. They escape from the burning house. Ellie stands outside and looks at the demon. She hears her mother begging her to stay. When she appears in place of the demon, Ellie has had enough and leaves. The house burns, and the three girls stand to watch it happen. Before the door closes, the demon gets on top of Alma, furious at her failure. After everything is settled, Ellie comes to her mother's grave with a record. She breaks it and tosses it on the grave. In the next scene, she is on duty as a nurse. She enters the burn ward and hears singing. To Ellie's shock, Alma is in one of the beds, undoing her bandages to reveal her deformed face. In the ward, there are several bodies hanging. This can't be happening, Ellie thinks. With a look of terror, she lets out a horrific scream.